Welcome everyone. Welcome to the CoinRock show. We'll get going here in a moment. Let's share this in the different groups. There you go. All right, good. We should be good to go now. How's everyone doing? Aside from aside from the market being down for what is and has been so far. Only about 2 weeks. Welcome everyone. Let's type in number one if you can hear and see me, and then share this in the groups for those who are mods. We'll get going here. So let's talk about what's happening in the market. So we're going to review some of the news. I'm laughing because I know that it's like why is crypto down? Why is crypto down? We'll talk about that. I put together a bunch of selected some news for you guys, so we'll go over that today. Besides the market being down, I'm great. Appreciate you and CoinRock. Appreciate that, D-Tune. So let's. I'm just gonna push this in some of the groups. Like the. I like the positivity. So. There you go. All right. And let's share this, like, comment, retweet, so we get the algorithm going. And let's get going with this too. All right, so today is Tuesday. I just had a very bullish dinner with, you know what? I wouldn't reveal the name, but you probably all know him. It was a very bullish dinner. We'll talk about that probably next week at some point. We'll have him on the show too. So, how are you guys doing? How are you guys holding up? I know it's been like a wild few weeks. Let's have a look at the market here. So, you know, over the last I'd say, what is it? 7 days, of course, red, right? Over the last month, red. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. And over the last day, yeah, it's just choppy, right? Choppy. That's kind of what I want to cover today with you guys. Welcome everyone. Like, retweet, comment here, share it with other people in different groups. Why is crypto dead? Tuesday Crypto Market Alpha. We'll talk about that. We'll be together probably for about 45 minutes, not too long today. It's you know, let's look at the price quickly. Bitcoin at 80K, ETH dropped under 2,000, XRP just over $2. So, you know, we've been choppy. It's been choppy for the last few weeks. I mean, it's been choppy down for the last few weeks. So, I just this is the main article I've been so I over the weekend spoke to a few friends who are in traditional finance, and this is the crux of this is my thesis. So I want to share this with you guys about why is crypto dead. We talked about this. So to give you guys some context, I have been very fortunate over the last 12 years, approximately 12, 13 years, to meet extremely smart TradFi people who become very close friends, guys who run hedge funds, guys who run hundreds of millions of dollars in their portfolio for hedge funds. Some of them run their own hedge funds. Some are more on the in private equity, so more on the private side. And so I'm lucky because I've met a lot of, yes, business owners, investors, but also, you know, people who are in TradFi. And I know that TradFi gets a bad rap in crypto, but ultimately, and this is one of the conversations I was having at dinner with a friend today, just literally like 2 hours ago. It's weird because crypto is is, the let's say the essence of crypto, right? The first reason that the first goal of crypto was to get away from the banks and financial institutions. And now we're in a position where your bags can only pump if the big boys and big money comes in, which means funds, pension funds, hedge funds, um, venture capital. And it's not ideal. It's very far from the idea of decentralization and crypto as it was supposed to be when Bitcoin launched, right? So, we've come a long way. We have to accept now that for crypto to grow and for the price of everything to go up, we need to see there needs to be big buyers coming in, and big buyers are literally the entities that crypto did not want in the first place. So what happens now? Well, the bottom line is there's not much bullish news coming up. That's the honest truth. That's something that very few people are willing to share publicly. The truth is, right now, there's not much to look forward to, right? In September, October, Trump was still running. There was hope of the Trump pump, which we did see, right? The market was way more bullish November, December, and over the last few weeks, it's been pretty choppy down only, with every now and then a few bounces. But you can see price action is probably not what everyone was thinking and hoping for when they either voted for Trump or thought the Trump coming in would actually help. So what's next? This is something I've been discussing behind closed doors with quite a few friends who've been in the TradFi space for decades, some of them over 20 years. Some are a bit older, some don't really understand let's say the use case of crypto. They're starting to understand it more because entities like BlackRock have come into the market and are much more bullish. But it's also interesting to get out of the quote trenches of crypto and to talk to people who are outside of this bubble of, especially TikTok, crypto, Twitter, the Discords, the Telegram groups, because there's a huge world outside of the trenches that don't care about what's happening in the trenches. So we had a guest on the CoinRock show today, pre-recorded episode that will be out probably in the next few days, who works, very cool conversation with him. He works on the institutional side. We'll be pushing that video on coinrockmedia.com and on the Twitter accounts. But yeah, it was a 45-minute conversation about how do the institutions think about this current price action, the future, how do they operate? Because I think that if you're not TradFi native, or if you don't have an eye in how traditional finance operates, it's very difficult to understand why these big funds are not quote mass bidding, right? So I think that those who have connections and who have access to traditional finance will do much better than those who are only crypto native, especially as we move more towards a space where it's Web3, right? Connected to old school traditional finance. So I just wrote this. This is an article on coinrockmedia.com. This is the media arm and the news platform of CoinRock. And so this is, we have a full team of writers and analysts, but this is an article I wrote today. And this is basically based around an exchange that I've had calls over the weekend with friends, like I said, in TradFi. And this is what many people, not everyone, because there's no consensus in the market, but what many are coming around to understanding and thinking. This is, and when you write these articles, me putting my name on this article and writing this is also you're putting your views out there, and this is forever. The internet never forgets. And so I might be wrong, but I might be right, and we'll see. This is my thesis, and this is how we are operating at CoinRock with our current projects, investments, future investments, and the time we allocate, time and energy we allocate to everything. All right, so let's go over this. Welcome to those who just joined. Just walking through. I'm going to take you through this. I'm going to take you through this article here that I wrote today. This was posted 4 hours ago. I wanted the team to push this today, so I wanted to go over this together with you guys. And this is something that, again, when you're putting these thoughts or these ideas in the market, I'm just retweeting something here. When you're putting these thoughts, these ideas out in the market, there's always a risk that you're wrong, right? But what's that saying? Fortune favors the bold or the brave. Let's go. So this is my view. The Federal Reserve is supposed to be independent, right, in the US. Again, remember what I've been saying for weeks now. Crypto lives today in a Trump-dependent world. Your bags depend on literally Trump's tweets or the administration's tweets. The Federal Reserve is supposed to be independent and free from political influence. The Federal Reserve is not a political entity. But in reality, it's run by people, human beings, and people who respond to pressure, especially when the stakes are high, and no one understands pressure better than Donald Trump. So to understand this thesis, you have to go back to kind of reading the essence and the old publications, interviews, books about and by Donald Trump over the last few decades. Trump is someone who loves to be, like I said, Trump has spent decades building his image as the ultimate winner, the boss, the man in charge. Trump thrives. When you look at the psychological profile of someone like Trump, he thrives on being right. He thrives on attention, recognition, and power. You can see a lot of even the handshakes. For those who haven't seen this, go have a look on YouTube. Type in Trump and Macron. So the French president, Macron, Macron, Trump, Macron handshake. It is hilarious. It tells you everything you need to know about the Trump psyche. How does Trump think? Trump loves attention. He's been in the news for decades. He's been on TV for decades. Recognition. He loves to tweet. He loves to be a market mover. And power, of course. He's tall. He looks very towering when he looks and talks to other world leaders. He uses that, literally handshakes, which is a very primal way of communicating with other people. So when it comes to the economy, he always wants to be in control, to control the narrative. So again, this is not purely a numbers play. My thesis is not only, as I pull this data, I pull from multiple data points, one of which is Trump's psychological profile. This: attention, recognition, power, and wanting to be the boss, which there's nothing wrong with that. But you need to know if he has so much influence on the market, you need to understand it's the either discounting Trump's influence or misunderstanding the psychological profile that Trump has compared to someone like, a European leader or like Biden before. You have to take that with someone who's larger than life, like Trump. You need to take that in consideration. So Trump's strategy is creating uncertainty and then taking credit, because it plays directly into the way he likes to operate. Again, this doesn't pull only from numbers and the macro. This is from how he operates as a human being. Right now, Trump is shaking the markets with uncertainty. Notice he's been flip-flopping on trade deals. Remember a few days ago, he said, oh, we're going to, this was about the car manufacturing tariffs. He said, we'll be imposing tariffs. And then a few days later, he said, oh, well, after all, I'm extending the no tariffs until April. This was for the car manufacturing industry. And he said, they came to ask me if I could not impose tariffs now. And, I said, fine. And he literally said, fine, but don't come asking again, which is a power move, right? So basically, I will grant you this favor, but you get this once. And so if you study his rhetoric, if you study his communication style, you will notice these things. For those who are just joining, my background is in marketing, PR, communication, ads, sales. So this, to me, studying someone like Trump is fascinating because the general public doesn't understand anything about the way he speaks, the way he uses metaphors, the way he uses persuasion, the way he uses all the tools in the neuro-linguistic programming, the NLP toolkit, the persuasion toolkit. I do because that's what I've done for 20 years now. And so you can see the way he phrases his statements, the way he literally types certain words and tweets in capital letters. There's no accident. He's a very smart man. So he's flip-flopping on trade deals, delaying resolutions. By the way, everything related to your bags, everything depends on Trump today. Everything. This article, if I'm right on this, right, and there's some very smart people I spoke to, very close friends who agree with this, extremely experienced, multi-decade TradFi investors who manage between 9 and 10 figures a year. So literally over $1 billion in AUM. Everything that you see on your Phantom, your MetaMask, any wallet you have in crypto depends on Trump today. So he has been flip-flopping, delaying resolutions on big global issues. Remember, he said, "Hey, basically in January, the war would end. The Ukraine war, the conflict with Russia, it's a 24-hour thing. It'll be done on day one. It'll be solved on day one. Remember that? It's still ongoing. So again, the key here is he's flip-flopping on trade deals, delaying resolutions on big global issues, keeping investors on edge. Why? So the question is why? Because when markets drop, people panic, right? You can see this in Telegram groups. You can see this on Twitter. You can see this on Reddit even. People panic, and when people panic, they look for solutions. So Trump then shifts the blame elsewhere. If you've been following the way he's been talking about NATO, Mexico, the EU, Canada, it's not his fault. It's about, the EU, they've been abusing America's generosity for decades. It's time for them to pay. Oh, Mexico has done this. Oh, Canada's done that. They've been abusing the trade deals, etc. So he's pointing fingers at everything and everyone, right? Keep in mind, he has the power to execute these trade deals today if he wants to. So he could change today, but he's not changing. He tells the public that these countries and entities have taken advantage of the US for decades and that he's the one fixing it, right? It's always, that's how it works, right? Everyone's the problem and I will fix it. Again, I'm not blaming Trump. That's how master communicators do it. It is communication 101 if you understand the type of alpha he is, the type of alpha male he is. That's how they communicate. And this is a skill that you should be able, if you want to be a master communicator. This is a side note. Maybe I can do a full session about that one day, a live stream about like how to communicate as a leader, as an alpha, and be influential and be listened to. But all this to say that Trump knows exactly what he's doing here. It doesn't mean he's the best economist on earth. It just means that he knows the game he is playing, and he's going full on with the game he's playing now. Meanwhile, the market continues to react negatively to instability. Markets hate uncertainty. Markets love certainty and just bullish news in general. Markets have a tendency, of course, of selling off when there is fear. And guess who's controlling the fear factor here? It's Trump, of course, right? Oh yeah, this tariff. Oh, you know what? 25% on this country, and if they reciprocate, we'll double that. Oh, the EU this, or NATO that. Oh, we'll pull the troops away from all the NATO countries, etc. Right? So, a lot of uncertainty. Again, typical Trump. So remember what happened for those who were here in crypto during COVID. Look at the years here. This is the Fed, so the Fed's balance sheet, right? Look at what happened during the pandemic. This is why your bag's pumped, by the way. Just so everyone knows, right? This is why, right? The balance sheet expanded. This is what happened between 2020, beginning of 2020. Balance sheet goes up. Of course, inflation goes up. And of course, then you have to tame inflation, so QT starts. Now, this is what happens. This is what happens when you print money. And of course, inflation comes up later. It's always delayed. But this, guess what happened here? The massive bull run. Crypto, right? Look. So, unfortunately, if you're here and you missed that one, we're not in the same monetary conditions here. So, with investors feeling the pain, the natural next step is to call for lower interest rates or more money printing or a combination of both. So, quantitative easing, basically injecting liquidity in the system. The opposite of QT, which is quantitative tightening. So that's where the Fed comes in. Now, you have to understand the first sentence here. Remember what I said here. The Federal Reserve is supposed to be independent and apolitical. The Fed is not a political agency or a political tool. But when it gets too bad, of course, in theory, they're not political. When it gets too bad, and when there's blood on the streets, or it's getting close to that, of course, it becomes an issue. So with investors feeling the pain, and the pain has started. It's not just crypto, by the way, guys. Like, if you haven't looked at the traditional stocks, equities, Tesla's down, Nvidia's down. Nvidia lost over $1 trillion in market cap. Everything's down. So it's not just this crypto bubble, right? So the next step is to call for lower interest rates and QE. That's where the Fed comes in. The central bank says it doesn't respond to political pressure, but when the markets are in trouble, it's hard to ignore. Again, human beings. You're Jerome Powell. You wake up every morning and your job sucks because every headline you see is that the economy sucks. You go to work, people are complaining. Everything's down. Their investments are down. So what happens? It's like, okay, well, there were just digits on a screen, but it creates fear. So you spend less. So consumer spending goes down. So you cancel the vacation. So you downsize, right? So it has a ripple effect. So the point here is Jerome Powell is strong right now. He's not folding under pressure. But everyone has a breaking point. And this is, again, where it's more where you have to take in consideration the human side, that Trump has used in business deals. He's a deal maker. He loves to win in business, make the deal to his advantage. He knows that if he pushes enough, his thesis, my thesis of what he believes is that if he pushes enough and it's bad enough, the Fed will react. Of course, they'll cover themselves saying, oh, this has nothing to do with politics. But it gets very hard to ignore when every single headline is bad. Markets down for days, weeks, months. It's bad, even if you're Jerome Powell. Again, people are imperfect. People have their own limiting beliefs, fears, and everything and everyone falls under pressure. Trump knows this. Why? You have to watch old interviews, or you have to watch him on, what was that show? The Apprentice. He knows how to push people, and he very much is used to using bullying tactics to push people away. There's even videos of him literally pushing this was like an EU leader, I think from Moldova or Macedonia, and literally pushing him away at one of the summits and walking first. That's how he is. And so Trump knows pressure. He's survived throughout his real estate career multiple points of being hundreds of millions of dollars technically in debt and surviving. So he knows that he knows that he's able to withstand pressure much more than the average Joe, which is true. Even if you look at the last 10 years of being president, then having to getting impeached several times, being accused, getting raided by the FBI, getting shot. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the brand recognition. Going through with the election, winning, coming back, and following through with extremely high risk decisions, yes, he can handle pressure. He also knows that everyone has a breaking point. Some people fold under pressure, and you see this with professional athletes. Some athletes, when it gets tough, they can perform, they deliver, they'll score the goal, they'll get the touchdown, and others just choke. Simple as that. Same in business. So Trump is not a choker. Trump knows how to push people, and he knows that people tend to choke at some point or fumble. He knows that if he creates enough uncertainty, the Fed will have no choice but to step in and lower rates and or inject liquidity. And then what happens? The markets will likely skyrocket, giving Trump the perfect opportunity to take credit for the recovery. That's how he is. He loves to blame other people, creates uncertainty. He gets what he wants, which in this case will be interest rates and printing, QE. Economy goes up, everyone's happy, he takes credit for it. And so now he's going to blame, like I said, external factors. The previous administration too, of course, right? Blaming everything and everyone, even when he literally comes back on a tariff, like he did a few days ago, right? With for the car manufacturers. And then he says, oh, well, I delayed this by a month. So even the way he frames it is not like, oh, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, guys. There's no apology. It's always about, all right, I did this. I'll give them a month to figure it out. But don't come back next month to ask again. The framing is always, he's a master at that. If you read about persuasion and influence, you'll start picking up on these things. So the bigger picture, my view is Trump's game plan is clear: create the problem, then take credit for the solution. It's classic persuasion and manipulation, something he's mastered over the years. If this plays out, we could see a massive rally in the markets, at least in the short term. Of course, this is the proverbial kicking the can down the road. What happens after a few years from now? It doesn't really matter to him. He'll be out in 3-4 years. As long as the economy does well when he's in charge, that's what he wants. Because then when he's out of office, of course, that's what he did when Biden was in power. He would he would be on the golf course and blame Biden, of course, for the economy, for this, for that. So that's the playbook. This is nothing new. We've seen this. A few years from now, the global economy, of course, currently, and this is what a lot of the the traditional finance and the TradFi alpha you get if you have good guys who are in that, and that's all they do. Because a lot of you guys either are only in crypto or you just don't have time to read and study the markets as much as people who do that every single day for a living. The reality is the global economy is already facing serious long-term problems, including rising debt levels. It's an issue that's worsening. Currently not, it's not just in the US, right? This is a global issue. A lot of tier 1 countries have these issues at different levels, but this is a global, living in a global world where trade is global. This is a major issue, including rising debt levels and economic slowdowns in key regions, including China, of course, who's used to, tariff wars, yes, but also dealing with bonds, American bonds. And so that is an issue. The question is whether this short-term boost will lead to an even bigger crisis down the road. It doesn't matter today because all you guys are concerned with is, will your bags pump? So if this plays out, your bags will pump. But the drop will be extremely sharp. For now, one thing is certain: Trump will do whatever it takes to win, even if it means pushing the Fed into action. How this could impact equities and crypto if Trump successfully pressures the Fed by creating pain. So this is going to be painful. We're not out of the woods. This is going to be weeks, maybe months of pain. Of course, we'll have these bounces, but right now, as of today, I mean, what is there to look forward to? Not much. Crypto has a way, though, of surprising everyone, so we'll see. But as of today, this kind of choppy sideways downward trend could last for months, just so you know. You have to take that into consideration. So if Trump successfully pressures the Fed into lowering interest rates or restarting money printing, the effects on equities and crypto could be significant. Equities, a potential rocket ship for now. Short-term boom. If this happens, so interest rates and QE, this is not going to happen next week, by the way. This might take, like I said, weeks or months, probably in the months phase from now. Lower interest rates mean cheaper borrowing costs, which encourages companies to expand, buy back stocks, and boost earnings. More liquidity in the market, more investor confidence. If the Fed pivots, we could see a V-shaped recovery in equities with the S&P and NASDAQ soaring. When the NASDAQ does well, crypto generally tends to do well. Hey, Matthias here, and if you're enjoying this and want access to even more alpha, early stage deals and opportunities, and also behind the scenes insights on the markets, hit the link in the description and make sure you're subscribed. It's free and it puts you ahead of the curve. Let's get back to the show. We've seen scenarios where it doesn't do as well as the NASDAQ, but it is closely correlated. So this is what we want, right? This is what you want. Long-term risks. The artificial market boost could create a bubble, of course, because you're not fixing the issue. He doesn't want to really fix the issue. Also, the issue is extremely complicated, and it's not just on the US side. So there's only so much he can do. The artificial market boost could create a bubble leading to overvalued stocks detached from real fundamentals. After this, if inflation spikes again, the Fed might have to reverse course again, leading to another crash. This is why some of the smartest investors who've been around for literally decades, just reading a comment here, anyone who made it through last summer can make it through this. Yes. That's why some of the oldest investors who've been around for decades, they've seen this. They know that there is the issue is something that Trump cannot fix today. But again, that's not the point, because he can't fix it today. He can only fix it in the short term. High debt levels and global economic issues mean this isn't sustainable. That's the whole point. But again, you guys are focused on your bag. So that's what we have now. Crypto liquidity. Crypto depends on liquidity. If there is liquidity in the system, if there is more money, crypto goes up. Simple as that. Explosive growth. Bitcoin and crypto rally. Crypto thrives on liquidity and risk appetite. When it's risk on, when people are willing to gamble $200, $300, $500, $1,000, $5,000, crypto goes up. If the Fed turns and lowers rates and more money printing, altcoins, Bitcoin, of course, Bitcoin and altcoins will explode upward. Institutions and hedge funds have more money and more access to money, they will then be able to diversify into crypto because it, again, investor confidence. You get deeper into risk as a hedge against inflation and monetary manipulation. What happens to retail? When equities pump, people feel richer. This is a big deal. It's not just about the number, it's about the feeling. When you see digits on your screen going up on your app, you book the vacation, you buy a new car, you buy new computers, you treat people around you. So more confidence leading to more retail money, more risk too, because you're not looking at how much you're spending on groceries, because groceries are fine. So you can spend money on other things, high risk things, right? Higher risk things like crypto. If Bitcoin breaks key resistance levels, it could set off a new bull run, pushing ETH and yes, ETH too, by the way, would benefit. I know ETH has been destroyed this cycle. We'll probably do something about ETH tomorrow. So live stream tomorrow about ETH. And altcoins, of course, would go much higher too. Expect crypto to see increased hype. And if money printing and rate cuts push crypto into an overheated rally, we could see a blow off top, which we have not seen this cycle, followed by steep correction. Similar to previous cycles, I will say, given the buyer profile in crypto, Bitcoin will most likely crash less than previous cycles, just because many of the buyers are heavier. They deploy more money, and they're not looking for a 3-month trade. But correction for sure. Regulatory uncertainty and potential government crackdowns could spoil the party. Maybe that's one that I have to include in the risk list, because again, we're in this phase now where it's very bullish in the sense that we have the SEC dropping cases. We're starting to get more clarity on the regulation side, but it's not fully clear yet. So it still needs to be on the risk list. Bottom line, if Trump's strategy works and the Fed caves, remember, people are decision makers are human, right? Everyone has a breaking point. Trump's breaking point, he has a much higher threshold for pressure. Well, the Fed, basically, who will crack first? My money, if I had to bet, is always on Trump cracking last, just because he has been unbreakable for decades. But I mean, if you look at the last 10 years now, especially the last 24 months, surviving several assassination attempts, that's pressure. That's real pressure at his age, with family, with a lot of money on the side. He doesn't need to be president, and he's still pushing. So his breaking point is extremely is much more tolerance than others. We'll see what the Fed does. The Fed has to have at least as much strength and resistance. Otherwise, they will cave first. That's what Trump is playing at. So if Trump's strategy works and the Fed caves, expect equities and crypto to skyrocket in the short term. But if this is but understand too, that's great for us. Keep in mind that at some point, if this happens and we see a blow off top, there will be a massive crash, because this is a short-term play, but it's a play nonetheless. So that's the article. It's on, I just retweeted it. It's on CoinRock Media. We'll have a quick look, a few minutes at each of these other articles here, but this is the crux of it. This is what's happening. This is what's happening in the markets. Everything comes from certainty or uncertainty. Right now, there is uncertainty. Markets drop. Something you have to keep in mind is that crypto needs a lot, and I mean a lot, of good news to go up. And it doesn't need a lot of bad news or neutral news to go down. That's what we're seeing. You're seeing good headlines. Let's have a look. This is, again, crypto market continues to sink as trade wars and recession fears rattle investors. This was today actually. Again, fear. Bitcoin dropped below 79K. Of course, all the other crypto currencies drop more, but nothing new, right? Again, Trump won't rule out a 2025 recession. That's like, oh, that's not what you want to hear if you're an investor. So he avoided giving a definitive answer, but acknowledged that the US economy is entering a, quote, period of transition. Not what you want to be hearing if you're an investor, especially in crypto. Not good. That's why price go down. So again, there is no certainty here. So keep that in mind. This might take months, just so you guys know. This most likely will not. We'll see bounces, but the interest rates and the liquidity issue are the main plays here. And to be honest, the Bitcoin reserve talk last week was a bit of a non-event. I think that's something that many leaders, in crypto, many thought leaders, many observers knew that it was. I mean, everyone kind of knew what would happen. Yes, the ENS. Remember what I said last week? I actually talked about these two reserves. And that's kind of what's happening. You have a Bitcoin reserve, and then you have kind of the rest. So we'll see. That's one of the headlines, of course. Again, uncertainty. Next one. This is one of the bullish pieces of news. I said we're getting these bullish headlines, but the price keeps dropping. Yes, because you have these bullish headlines, but above everything, you have this uncertainty. That's it. So you can have as many bullish headlines now, but if uncertainty keeps sticking around, price go down. SEC to reverse rule requiring crypto firms to register as trading systems. This is bullish. That means, again, less. It's almost like, yes, regulation, but deregulation here. The SEC is moving away from a controversial proposal that would have required some firms to register as trading systems. Again, very bullish. It was a mistake. Imagine the SEC saying this. It was a mistake. Like, you don't hear these agencies saying this usually. You can see that this is under new management, right? It was a mistake for the commission to link together regulation of the treasury markets with a heavy-handed attempt to tamp down the crypto markets. Good news for us. So again, we're getting good headlines. We're just not out of the woods of uncertainty. Anthony Pompliano claims Trump crashed markets to force rate cuts. This was published 56 minutes ago. So again, this is I haven't seen this headline. I just pulled this up. The president and his team are intentionally crashing the markets. Is this a master plan, or are we watching uncontrolled destruction? Pretty much what I just said. Again, this is something that you would, and I know of course he's involved in TradFi, traditional finance. So this is the alpha that you get if you go from crypto to TradFi, because crypto can be very trenchy, right? You're stuck in a Discord, in a Telegram group, and you don't have any idea of what's happening in the broader markets. He does. So same thing I said. I firmly believe, and I stand with my thesis, my article. It's out, published before. I know this is something that's going to become much more popular in the coming days and weeks, especially if we continue down this trajectory. Remember who published it first. So again, same thing, like literally what I said, right? Uncertainty to force the Fed's hand. This is something I just want to warn you guys. This is an article I pulled up here. There's always going to be insane amounts of scams in crypto. Please, especially when the markets are tough. What you need to do now is play defense. This concept in anything, right? In sports, but also, of course, in finance. There's a time to be risk on and go offense. Right now, you don't want to be making massive bets, leverage trading, for example. You want to be preserving your money. Easy mode will come back at some points. You want to have money to deploy when it's easy mode, right? Right now, we don't know. Maybe we hit the bottom. Maybe 79K was the bottom. Maybe. We'll see. I personally believe we'll see lower just because of everything I said. And until there is clarity on the tariff side, the trade deal side, the Trump side in general, we will chop and go down choppy. It's not gonna be nice. Will we have these? Are we gonna have these huge flash crashes? I don't think so. I think it's gonna be a grind for at least in the short term. And so when this fear and when people want to make money back quick because maybe you lost money or you went long and you got liquidated, be careful. There's a lot of scams. Please preserve your capital. Make sure that you buy things that you actually believe in. And it's okay to DCA into positions, but be very careful with clicking on bad links. Be careful with scams in general. South Korea, the CBDC trial, 100,000 consumers and banks. We saw a headline the other day. I didn't pull it up, but it'll be talked about in Europe because the EU is trialing, I believe, later this year, their CBDC. Nothing really new. I mean, we talked about this. It's been in the works for years now. Very controversial bill. They tried to pass, basically having full control over your money. So, I mean, do we want a centralized entity to control all your digital money? The answer is no. I definitely don't want that. But we might not have a choice. We don't like it, but sometimes, it's not looking good. Like they say, it's not looking good. So, we'll see more CBDC news over time. I think it opens the door to abuse, of course. The idea of CBDCs, in essence, are not completely bad. The problem is always with abuse, right? And we saw this during COVID. We saw when people were refusing to, get the thing. People lost their jobs, literally lost their houses because people had to move out. So what happens if the centralized entity doesn't like your opinions? Not a conspiracy theorist, but we've seen that happen. We've seen extremely well-respected physicians being literally deplatformed. We've seen award-winning physicians. We've seen award-winning journalists getting deplatformed. So, and also with crypto, when it comes to crypto, there was an article yesterday on CoinRock about the Trump family suing, I believe it was Citibank or Bank of America, one or the other. Actually, can someone pull this up? Was it? I know the Trump family is actually suing a bank for literally closing down. I think it was like over 100 bank accounts related to the Trump team, directly, family, and entourage. That's not okay, right? So banks refusing to open bank accounts because you're in crypto. We've seen that happen for years. We've seen people getting deplatformed during COVID. We've seen people who are very famous, like I said, physicians. We've seen lawyers. We've seen journalists who a few months before COVID being extremely well-respected on TV, talk shows, etc. And overnight being like, hey, bye-bye, we don't like your opinion. So, that's the problem with CBDCs is it's fine. Like you can transact quickly with your wallets. It's basically a stable coin. The problem is what happens when a centralized entity can freeze everything because they don't like what you do or say. And we've seen this happen. Again, this is not, I rewatched the movie 1984. So the Orwell book. the 1984 movie. I think it came out in 1984. It's extremely dystopian, of course, but we've seen many of those things happen during COVID. So what happens if they don't like your political opinions, affiliations, and you have no money? That's the problem with CBDCs. But again, this is happening. Thank you, Six Figs, who says, posted the link to the AP. A company owned by President Donald Trump sued Capital One. Oh, it's Capital One. Sponsor of, I don't have my mug here, but official sponsor of the Washington Capitals, my favorite team. Claiming the bank unjustifiably terminated over 300 of the Trump organization's accounts without cause in 2021. So look, debanking has been happening for a long time. Nothing new. CBDCs just make it even easier to debank someone, like to literally stop the flow of money. So it's I'm not bullish on this. But it's in the news. Solana revenue crashes. This is kind of a. I think a lot of people hate on Sol. I will say this, knowing the building side of Solana very well, because I know probably at this point well over 100 entities, builders, founders building on Solana. I think Solana gets a lot of heat, a lot of shit, but that's where the builders are today. You might hate it, but not to name other chains that are dead and have no builders on. People are building on Solana. That's where the party is, right? Of course, it's been extremely meme heavy. So because memes have crashed and memes generate revenue, memes crash, no revenue. I mean, it's common sense. Point here is, I think Solana gets a lot of heat for being, after ETH or with ETH, the number 1-2 platform that have the most builders and the most potential to onboard. And we've seen Solana being, of course, whether you like token launchers, memes, it's extremely, Solana is bullish, whether you like it or not. There's no other chain in the top 5, in the top 10 that's competing with it in terms of the amount of builders on it. And right now, I'll tell you what we're doing at CoinRock. We have 2 projects coming out on Sol, and one was supposed to be on ETH. But again, Solana is the winner of this cycle, and I'm bullish on Sol. Of course, price action is horrendous. Everything's bad. I think it touched 300, I think, a few weeks ago. Now we're at 123. It's going to happen. But overall, like, where else are you going to build? ETH, yes. XRP, BNB, Cardano, Tron. I mean, again, the builders are on Sol. I met dozens and dozens over the last 6 months in person. And the Solana build, I'd say that the Solana builder scene, founder scene is very bullish. Good people. And yes, there's memes, and yes, there's rugs, but beyond the rugs and the scams, there's actually good projects. And by the way, there's good and bad everywhere. So, but again, this is a headline because 93% is pretty bad. But again, if the majority of your revenue comes from memes and memes die, by the way, for what it's worth, I think that memes will come back if we see the scenario where crypto and the market is more risk on. Memes definitely run again. Which memes? Is it old memes? Is it new memes? Of course, new memes. Everyone likes the new and shiny. I think there'll be, of course, some of the older ones that run hard. I think memes are definitely not dead. I've said this several times. I will stand by this position that people like memes. They understand memes. It's easy to understand. It's easy to onboard. There's a picture. There's a chart. They can buy something. It goes up. They make money. Of course, they can lose money. But it's easy to understand, much easier than many DeFi protocols. I love DeFi. But explaining that, hey, buy this meme coin because it's going up, and it's a dog, or it's a cat, or it's a lizard. Easy to understand. And the last one here is Trump. See how many even, just realize how many Trump headlines we have every day. You can't avoid it. I said weeks ago. I see a few people saying that, oh, Trump defines crypto. And I said, yeah, I said this like 2 months ago. We live in a Trump, your back depend on Trump. We live in a Trump-dependent crypto market. Trump's meme coin crashes 85% from peak. Memes are always going to be hit the hardest. So this launched January. When was it? January. No. When did it launch? Do we have the date here? Don't know if we have the dates. I think it was, yeah, January peak at 73. Now it's at $10. You know, I think it's something that I have, you know, it's funny. I have actually I'm actually bullish on the Trump coin just because it's Trump, and that in better market conditions, I could easily see him doing something with it, tweeting, of course, but doing something related to maybe, you know, World Liberty Finance, his DeFi, something with Trump. It's him. So would I buy it? I think there's more downside. Can it rip in the right market conditions? Yeah. Just because Trump is around. And so, and because he likes to win, he's the first, you know, he likes talking about being the first crypto president, even though crypto is like fucking has dropped drastically over the last 2 months. I think it should do well. I'm not buying it though. That's my view on the Trump coin. But yeah, that's again another Trump headline. So for those who just joined, welcome, and we'll be wrapping up in a few minutes here. The main article here today is this one. Let me just grab this for everyone. It's the article about. So I don't write a lot of articles on CoinRock Media just because we have a full team of independent writers and researchers who write everything. This is one that whenever I write articles, I of course will share it with you guys, but also I sign them. So that's I believe it's the first article that I have out on CoinRock Media. And so I talk about, we covered this. I'll just put this in the chat here. I think everyone should read it because it's key in today's, let's have a look. It's key in today's, just to understand kind of what's happening in the markets. If you don't understand this, you know, it's going to be tough. So I'm going to put here, read this article now. And for those who just joined, I think after reading the article, you guys should watch the recording of this. The first probably 20-30 minutes, we talked in depth about this. And yeah, I think for now, there's really nothing much to discuss aside from, you know, we have to take it day by day. What we're doing at CoinRock is looking at day by day. I had a very bullish dinner today with someone who's also extremely well connected in the space. You know his name. He'll be on the show, so we'll talk about the dinner when he's on the show. There's very few people you can connect on a deeper level and actually have a good conversation about the market. He's one of them. He's smart. He has traditional finance experience too, and so we'll do something at some point, you know, on the CoinRock show. Bottom line is right now, a lot of uncertainty. As long as uncertainty continues, which I think it will, it might take weeks, might take months now. We're going to see the choppy down action, and that's just how it is. You have to brace. I've said this for a few weeks now, pain before pleasure. You'll see me tweet this out every now and then, pain before pleasure. There's going to be a lot of disappointed people right now who are trying to trade it, trying to trade the chop. It's very difficult, very, very difficult. That's how you get wrecked. So if you try to make everything back in one trade, please, take a step back, go for a hike, disconnect. There's nothing you can do. There's a lot of projects, including CoinRock projects, that we are postponing now, that we have postponed TGE, so token launches, because there's zero upside in launching anything today in a market like this. It's something that we're monitoring every single day. We're extremely incentivized to make it work because we want things to work out, of course. And right now we have to take it day by day. Like I said, don't get wrecked. Don't do stupid shit with your money. If you want to buy anything, DCA into spot positions. Only trade leverage if you're scalping with money that you can blow, that you can lose, because you can get wicked literally within seconds. So be very careful, because there's a lot of horror stories online now on Twitter. Maybe you've seen. I saw one today. I don't remember who, but someone basically saying that he started with 60K, I believe, this cycle, ran up to 5 million in liquid. So he could have cashed out very easily and round tripped. And he said, I'm done. There's a lot of stories like that. So don't be that story. And right now, if you're afraid, I tweeted this yesterday. I said, sometimes the best way to play the game is not play, basically. Let me see the exact words. That's actually a good line. I'm going to tweet it now. Let's have a look. I tweeted this. I said, if the market is freaking you out, sometimes not playing is the best way of playing. If you have no edge, take a seat and wait for easy mode. Easy mode will be back. So let me tweet this. Sometimes the best way of playing is to not play at all. Keep your capital for easy mode or DCA slowly. So that's basically let me push this tweet here for everyone. RT, that's the closing statement for today. Thank you guys for joining. We'll be on most likely tomorrow. Let me look at my calendar here. I think we'll be on tomorrow. Yes, we'll be on tomorrow. Same time, probably a bit earlier, probably an hour earlier. We'll post that. We'll push updates to the groups about half an hour before the show. Thank you for joining. Tell your friends about the show. Bring them on. Try to just have like normal kind of conversations with you guys. Share what's going on, how we're thinking about the markets, how we're playing the markets. In this case, we're just focusing on the building side, which is, like I said, it's actually a great time to be building. And there's a lot of releases and news that we'll be pushing out. But again, there's no point in pushing news out when the market sucks. You cannot market your way out of out of this type of markets. You have to pick and choose when you deploy marketing, in general, marketing efforts, marketing capital. So wish you all the best, guys. Don't get chopped. Play safe. There's always going to be easy mode. Easy mode will be back. Be patient. Pain before pleasure. Stay mentally sane. Go for a hike. Spend time with your family. Because when it is back, and the bull will be back, we'll be on 24/7. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey, thanks for watching. If you got value from this episode, you're going to love what's coming next. So subscribe now. We drop new episodes and videos several times a week. featuring power players, market movers, and insiders from the financial world. And if you want access to deals and insights we only share privately, hit the links in the description and we'll see you on the next show.